Hello and welcome to another video. This is Richard of the New Manchester YouTube channel, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the power outage in two countries on the Iberian Peninsula in Europe, Spain and Portugal. And I'm also going to be talking about the election victory in Canada, which Prime Minister Mark Carney, the leader of the Liberals, won, and some other things in this video. So, without further ado, let me get started. Okay, I'm on the BBC News ticketer on my Apple iPad Mini 2. This is the article about the power outage in Spain and Portugal on the Iberian Peninsula in Europe. So let me go ahead and read this. Everything went off. How Spain and Portugal's massive power cut unfolded. That's the title. Okay, here's the article. The first sign of trouble Peter Hughes noticed was when the train to Madrid started to shut down. Then the TV monitors and lights went off. Emergency lights switch on, but did not last, and the locomotive ground to a halt. 4 hours later, Mr. Hughes was still stuck on the train 200 kilometers outside of Spain's capital. He had food and water, but the toilets were not working. It will be getting dark soon, and we could be stuck here for hours, he told the BBC. The massive power cut that stranded Mr. Hughes triggered chaos across Spain and Portugal and also impacted Andorra and parts of France. From about midday local time, 10 o'clock GMT, traffic lights shut off. Metros closed. Businesses stumbled and people joined queues to get cash as card payments did not work. Jonathan Emerly was on a different train halfway between Seville and Madrid when the cuts hit. For an hour, he sat on the train, the doors closed, until people could pry them open to let in ventilation. Half an hour later, passengers left, only to find themselves stranded. That was when people from local villages started coming and dropping off supplies, water, bread, fruit. Nobody is charging for anything, and the word must be getting around in the local town because people just keep coming, he said. Commuters in Madrid were left confused in the dark when the blackout hit the city's metro station network. One resident, Sarah Jovan, was getting off the train when the lights went out. People were hysterical and panicking, she told the BBC. It was quite chaotic, really. This power outage is bad. Mobile phones had stopped working and nobody had any information. Once out of the metro station, she found the roads gridlocked with heavy traffic. No one understood anything. Businesses were closed and buses were full, she said. Hannah Laurie was halfway through scanning her grocery shopping at Outage when the power went out in the Spanish capital. People were coming out of their offices and walking home because they could not tell when the buses were coming. Miss Laurie said in a voice message sent to the BBC Radio 5 Live. It's a bit disconcerting. It's a bit disconcerting that it's the whole country. I've never experienced this before, she said. Mark England was eating lunch in the restaurant of the hotel when he is staying on holiday in Birmingham when everything went off and the fire alarm started going off and the fire doors started closing. In an international school in Lisbon, the electricity flickered on and off for a while, then gave up. Teacher Emily Thorngood said, she kept teaching in the dark, children in good spirits, but lots of parents were taking their children out of school, she said. Will David, a Brit living in Lisbon, was having a haircut and beard trim in the basement of a barber when the power went out. The barber found him a spot by the window upstairs to finish the cut with scissors. The walk home felt very strange, both with the lack of traffic lights, meaning a complete freefall for vehicles and pedestrians on the roads, as well as so many people milling around outside their places of work with nothing to do, he said. In Italy, mobile phone networks also went down for some, leaving many scrambling for information. Chris Glandon, who is in La Vita d'Oxo, about 30 miles from Valencia, said it was scary as he struggled to get updates about what was happening. Elos Gantin, who could not do any work as a copywriter for Barcelona, said she was only receiving occasional messages, could not load web pages on her phone, and was trying to conserve her battery. An hour and a half after the power went out, one resident for Fanola in southeast Spain said her husband was driving around trying to find a petrol station that could supply fuel to run a generator and keep their fridge powered. We were worried about food, water, cash, and petrol in case this goes on for a couple of days, said Lincia, a Brit who has been living in Spain for 11 years. Locals have more to worry about than the Madrid Open tennis tournament being suspended, she said, adding there is very little news about what's happened. Mr. England said walking down the street in Peninsula, a majority of shops are in darkness and shutters or have people on the entrances saying you can't come in. There's no cash machines, no traffic lights, so it's strange. After Miss Glenna's phone signal returned after about 2 hours, he and others ventured out to cafes but found nothing is working. We came to get some food and a drink, but they can't cook without electricity. Within 2 hours, Spain power grid operator Red Alexia said it was beginning to recover power in the north and south of the country. About 2.5 hours after the cuts, Madrid's mayor Jose Luzela Martinez still urged all residents to keep their movements to the absolute minimum and, if at all possible, to remain where they are, in a video recorded from the city's integrated emergency service center. The city's integrated emergency security center. The city's integrated emergency security center. Yeah, I had to say it again. My eyes were going all over the place. Sorry about that, folks. At 1500 local time, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez pulled together an extraordinary meeting of Spain's National Security Council. Red La Chile CEO Orlando Patredo said at a news conference shortly afterwards that it could take between 6 to 10 hours to restore power. Just before 1600, electricity flickered back on in Merlinga. By 1700, the grid operator said the power was being restored in several areas of the north, south, and west of the Iberian Peninsula. Portugal's power firm, REN, gave a more depiction, saying that it could take up to a week before the network was back to normal. A state of emergency was later declared across Spain, with regions able to request special measures. But by Monday evening, Sanchez said 50% of power had been restored across Spain, while REN said electricity has been restored to 750,000 customers. Many, however, remain without power. No plans for where to stay. No plans for where to stay. Knock-on effects continue. Backup generators at airports kicked in, allowing most flights to leave on time, but some have been able to operate. Tom McGilloway, on holiday in Lisbon, was due to return to London on Monday night, but as of early evening did not know what would happen. He said for the time being people were getting drinks and food, but vendors told him they would only be able to keep working until the batteries ran out on their pavement terminals. If it needed to book a hotel, if the plane is canceled, I don't know how I can do it if payments were down, he added. My partner's parents are trying to get petrol so they can pick us up to take us back to Engenado, but many petrol stations are closed or not taking payment. We might be stuck with no plan for where to stay tonight. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Well, wait, I can read more. Let's see. Yeah, so this article is almost finished. I'm almost finished reading it. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. Some of the names on this are in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. So forgive me. Okay, Spanish violinist Isaac Bernfen went to a rehearsal in the morning at the Symphony Orchestra in Madrid, but the building was all dark and most of the other orchestra players hadn't turned up because they were stranded with no transport. People without cash were permanently stuck, he told the BBC, because online payment systems were down. The day without power was strange and a little medieval, Mr. Biff said, but the atmosphere was actually pretty nice, and with the electricity still out in his apartment or flat, he spent the evening drinking beers with friends by candlelight. Yeah, so this power outage sent the Iberian Peninsula, which houses two countries, Spain and Portugal, sent them back to the medieval ages, the dark ages. Yeah, so this is quite a story. Yeah, I heard about that. Everybody just found it weird that, traffic lights weren't working, ATM machines didn't work. Everybody was in the dark, and people were going to stores and buying battery power radios so they can turn these radios on after they put the batteries in them to keep up with what's going on in the news. Yeah, and it just shows that how much we in the world are so dependent on technology. So, like smartphones, with social media and all this stuff, like, yeah, no power, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. And, we've been taking things for granted nowadays in this digital age. But, when I lost power at my house, yeah, I didn't freak out or anything. I was in the dark, and I just went and just laid down and just looked around, and that's about it. Like, I think next time if the power goes out of my house, I'm probably just going to just listen to some music that's stored on my Apple iPod Touch or my Apple iPad Mini 2. And got some Bluetooth headsets so I can sync them up. With the Apple iPad Mini 2 or the Apple iPod Touch. Either of the two. The Apple iPad Mini 2 has a lot more music on it than the Apple iPod Touch. So yeah. So yeah. So if I was living in Europe right now, let's say I live in France and I decided to head to Spain and Portugal on a vacation or a holiday, and I get caught up in this mess. I'm probably gonna be stranded. Probably couldn't take the train home if I get done vacationing in Spain or Portugal, or both countries. I've never been to Spain. I've never been to Portugal. But I think in the future I might go to those two countries. I want to see more of France too, and Belgium. And I also want to stay away from those really, really bad, some of those countries in Europe that are really, really bad. Yeah, I heard Western Europe is very expensive. And it is. But I can't go to Eastern Europe, like Ukraine and Russia, because those two countries are at war right now. So I don't want to go near those countries. And also, on that 2023 Mediterranean cruise, I was supposed to go to Israel along with going to the countries of Turkey, Greece, and Cyprus. So couldn't go to Israel because of that war between Israel and Hamas. So the cruise ship just sailed back and forth between Greece and Turkey. Back and forth, and going to different parts of these countries. So yeah, all right. On to the next segment. Okay, segment number 2, or story number 2. Okay, I'm on it. Okay, I found about the election that went on in Canada on the Associated Press, and it's titled "Canada's Liberals Fall Short of a Majority in Parliament in the Wake of Comeback Election Victory." And it reads as follows. This is coming out of Toronto. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberals fell short of winning an outright majority in Parliament on Tuesday, a day after the party scored a stunning comeback victory in a vote widely seen as a rebuke of U.S. President Donald Trump. The vote counting agency Elections Canada finished processing nearly all ballots in an election that could leave the Liberals just 3 seats shy of a majority, which means they will have to seek help from another smaller party to pass legislation. The Liberal Party seemed likely to find an extra votes necessary, but it was not clear whether they would come from the Progressive Party, which backed the Liberals under former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, or from a separatist party from French-speaking Quebec. Carney's rival, populist conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was in the lead until Trump took aim at Canada with a trade war and threats to make the country as the 51st state. Poilievre not only lost his bid for Prime Minister Monday, but was voted out of the Parliament seat that he held for 20 years. That capped a swift decline in fortitudes for the firebrand Poilievre, who a few months ago appeared to be a shoo-in to become Canada's next Prime Minister and shepherd the Conservatives back into power for the first time in a decade. Poilievre, a career politician, campaigned with Trump-like bravado, taking a page from the America First president by adopting the slogan Canada First, but his similarities to Trump may have ultimately cost him and his party. Yeah, there's a saying, don't be something that you're not. Okay? Yeah, it sounds like Pierre Poilievre, the conservative leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, he's basically Canada's Donald Trump, or Trump Light, as they like to call him. The Liberals were projected to win 169 seats of Parliament's 343 seats, while the Conservatives were projected to win 144. The separatist Bloc Québécois party was expected to finish with 22 seats, the Progressive New Democrats with 7, and the Greens with 1. Recounts were expected in some districts. Elections Canada said 68.5% of eligible voters cast ballots in the federal election, the highest turnout since 1993. In a victory speech, Carney stressed unity in the face of Washington's threats. He said the mutually beneficial relationship Canada and the U.S. had shared since World War II was gone. Yeah, Donald Trump killed it. We are over the stock of the American betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons, he said. As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country, Carney added. Well, I'm an American. I don't want anything from Canada. And Canada should not become the 51st state of the U.S. Canada is an independent country that's part of the Commonwealth of Nations. It's a G7 country. Yeah. Even though Canada is kind of screwed up, some of the people are kind of messed up, but even though Canada has problems, Canada's problems are not in the extreme like here in the United States. Okay, let me continue. These are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so America can own us. That will never ever happen. Amen to that. But we also must recognize the reality that our world has fundamentally changed. In a statement issued Tuesday, the White House spokesperson Anna Kelly said the Canadian election does not affect President Trump's plan to make Canada America's cherished 51st state. Carney spoke with Trump, and the two leaders agreed on importance of Canada and the United States working together as independent sovereign nations for their mutual betterment. Carney's office said in a statement, the men agreed to meet in person in the near future. Yeah, I heard that. Well, Donald Trump committed a lot of crimes here in the U.S. Found guilty of all counts. And he committed some crimes, so he can't go to Canada. So I don't know if Prime Minister Mark Carney is going to come to the U.S. to head to Washington to meet with Trump. But I know Trump can't go to Ottawa because he's banned because he's banned from Canada because of the crimes he's committed. I don't know. He probably could go. But it's like this, if you commit a crime here in the U.S., if you try to go to another country, that country will block you because you committed a crime. Okay, let me continue. A defeat for the Conservatives. Poilievre hoped to make the election a referendum on Trudeau, whose popularity declined towards the end of his decade in power as food and housing prices rose. But Trump attacked Trudeau, resigned, and Carney, a two-time central banker, became the Liberal Party's leader and prime minister. Yeah, Mark Carney is a banker. He was the governor of the Bank of England in the UK, and also he ran the Bank of Canada in Canada. So he's a banker. He's not a politician. And I heard that his French is pretty shaky and it's not that great. I don't speak. I speak little French. And I can say a lot more words in French, but I can't count in French. I can't do sentence structure in French by speaking. I haven't slayed the francophone beast. I'm not bilingual right now. And the only language that I'm fluent in is the language that I'm speaking right now, English. So yeah, okay, let me continue. In a concession speech before the race call on his own seat, Poilievre vowed to keep fighting for Canadians. We are conscious of the fact that we didn't get over the finish line yet, Poilievre said. We know the change is needed, but change is hard to come by. It takes time. It takes work. And that's why we have to learn the lessons of tonight. McGill University political science professor Daniel Bellin said nothing prevents Poilievre from remaining the Conservative leader without a seat, but if he decides to stay, he would need to run in another district, perhaps by asking a Conservative member of Parliament from a safe Conservative district to resign. Still losing your seat when some people within your own party think you're the main reason why it failed to win is a clear issue for Pauliet, Berland said. Moreover, not having a leader of the official opposition in the House of Commons when Parliament sits again would obviously be a problem for the Conservatives. Even as Canada marred a deadly weekend attack at a Vancouver street festival. Let me read this again. Even as Canadians martyred a deadly weekend attack at a Vancouver street festival, Trump was trolling them on Election Day, advertising that he was on their ballot and emotionally claiming that the U.S. subsides Canada. It makes no sense unless Canada is a state, he wrote. He still wants Canada to become part of the U.S. You know, I think Donald Trump is just stuck on stupid. Trump's tolerance has infuriated Canadians, leading many to cancel U.S. vacations, refuse to buy American goods, and possibly even to vote early. A record 7.3 million Canadians cast ballots before Election Day. Reed Warner, a Toronto resident, said he voted Liberal because Pauliet sounds like mini Trump to me. He said Trump's tariffs are a worry. Canadians coming together from, all the shades being thrown from the states is great, but it's definitely created some turmoil, that's for sure, he said. Foreign policy has dominated a Canadian election this much since 1988, when free trade within the United States was a prevailing issue. The Liberals' way forward. Carney and the Liberals have daunting challenges ahead. By failing to win a majority in Parliament, the Liberals will need to rely on a smaller party. Trudeau's Liberals relied on the New Democrats to remain in power for years, but the party fared poorly on Monday, and its leader, Jagmeet Singh, said he was stepping down after 8 years in charge. The Bloc Québécois, who looked to finish third, is a separatist party from French-speaking Quebec that seeks independence. Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet. Let me say this again. Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet said he would be open to working with the government for a year if it's a majority. The last thing the Quebec people and Canada people want is instability in the federal parliament, he said. In addition to the trade war with the U.S. and a frosty relationship with Trump, Canada is dealing with a cost of living crisis, and more than 75% of its exports go to the U.S. So Trump's tariff threats and his desire to get North American automakers to move Canada's production south could severely damage the economy. Carney has vowed that every dollar the government collects from counter tariffs on U.S. goods will go towards Canadian workers who are adversely affected. He also said the plans to offer a middle-class tax cut, return immigration to suitable levels, and increase funding to Canada's public broadcaster. Okay, and that's it. So, yeah, Jagmeet Singh said he was going to step down after 8 years as the NDP's leader, or the New Democratic Party's leader. So, yeah, I'm glad that Pierre Pauliet didn't win. Because if he won, he will bow down to Trump and roll over for Trump and betray Canada and let Donald Trump run ramp shot over Canada. You know, Donald Trump can keep talking about and keep trolling Canadians in Canada and keep saying that, oh, Canada should be the 51st state of the U.S. It will never happen. So Donald Trump needs to get over it. He needs to get over it, okay? It will never happen. And it's good that the Canadians are not putting up with this crap because they care about their sovereignty. They care about their country. They love their country. They're proud to be Canadians. And you know, if I was Canadian living in Canada, I would do the same thing, you know. I'll stand up for my country. And I will never go to the U.S. and purchase goods in that country at all. So, you know, yeah. So I'm with the Canadians on standing up to Trump in his bullying and his belligerentism. So Trump can go screw himself for all I care. I didn't vote for him, and I don't want to have anything to do with him. And I know he's gonna make life a living hell in the U.S. for me and everybody who lives in the U.S. And I know this. So, you know, yeah. So, that's all I gotta say in this video. Cheers and au revoir. Merci beaucoup. Goodbye. Peace.